What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. We're going to go over some short-term and long-term price predictions in this video, doing some technical analysis here using the charts. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get into it without any time wasting at all. Here we are at $102.3 thousand right now. If we take our last cycle high in November 2021 to the cycle low that we had in December or November 2022, I'm sorry, about a year later there. You can see we're at the 1272 and we're consolidating right here. Now, generally speaking, if you don't know anything about the fibs, let me just tell you real quickly, okay? If you have any fib range, right, from high to low, whenever you, right, that's your high, that's your low. So whenever you have your movement down, whatever, and then you retrace, whenever you consolidate right below the 1272 like that, you almost always see an extremely explosive move that takes you up to your 1618, okay, at like right up to that area, okay. It's very rare that you consolidate like this and that you only go to your 1414. You could do that, it's possible. You know, anything's possible at any given time, but it's not as likely, okay. It's not the likely possibility. We go back and we look at what Bitcoin's doing now. And I promise you, I didn't just make that up for the sake of what we're doing here, but this is exactly what we're doing here, is consolidating right below the 1272. Generally, whenever you hit this area, you find resistance here. You pull back to the 100 to the 886 before moving higher. Generally, that's what you do. So consolidating here is a more bullish, more tight form of the same consolidation. It's just you didn't have to move down in order to move up. You just moved sideways. And generally speaking, when you do that, that's not weakness that's showing, that's strength that's showing. If you're showing strength, you likely don't stop at the next target. You likely would go at least to the target after that, or even through it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think Bitcoin's going to move up to 259 on this next move. I think it will get there in time by the end of the cycle. I think we will, but during this next move, which probably ends, you know, sometime by the end of February, if not sometime in the middle of March, that's probably going to not take us to 259, but I really do think 173K could be on the table. We're at $102,000 right now, you guys, okay? Everybody in the markets, there's all kinds of theories as to why Bitcoin's going to go to 70K, right? All kinds of reasons for it too. Man, it's crazy. It's crazy how loud all the bearish people were, right? They were super loud, all of them. I could hear them roaring, man. It woke me up. They were all super loud right here. It's crickets now. It's crickets. And what's really crazy is where they were loud from the open of that day, it was only 4%. It was only a 4% drop, guys. It was only a 4% drop, and they were super loud. You remember it, right? It was 12 hours ago. They were super loud. It was only 4%. Now we're only up 4%, and they're super quiet. You guys, these bears are delusional. No offense if you're a bear out there, but if you were super loud at the bottom and now you're quiet, you realize you let a 4% move allow you to be emotionally crazy, and then a 4% move to the other direction shut you the hell up. Like what? That's weak both ways, and you did it both times. It's the market is bored, and the market is, let's just say, not rational right now, okay? And that's a good thing. Whenever a 4% drop makes everybody think that this is a double top and the cycle's over and we're going to zero now, that's a good thing. If we were doing this and people were, if everybody was bullish, that's actually normally when you are at the top. When you have this huge confusion and fear across the boards on a 4% drop, that's how you know the bull market's still firmly entrenched, you guys. Beyond all that, there's a very simple way that we can know that too, and actually a way that I like to look at very specifically is the monthly RSI. We're on BTC USD here, all-time history index. I've got the RSI, right? This is the price action here. We got the relative strength index here, okay? If you draw a line from the top, first off, I want to point out, let's blow this up. And if you've been watching the channel for a while, you already know what I'm about to say, but we're going to go over it for all the new people here, because guys, like genuinely, by the way, thank you all. I know I got like almost 3,000 new subscribers in the last 48 hours. It's ridiculous. And I'm very appreciative. I know I've had even more than that this past month. I got a lot of new faces in here. So if this is your first time seeing this, hit that like button. You probably don't have to subscribe if you're already subscribed, but subscribe if you haven't. But let's go over this real quick. Okay, what I want to identify, besides just being grateful for everybody who's recently added themselves to the C-Zar Gets Crypto channel, thank you guys, is that this double peak here in the monthly RSI. It identifies even this one peak here. It had a second peak here. It was a double peak. It's just this peak, it was so much lower because we didn't have a blow off top. We had the double top here. So it was still 2 peaks each time. Each cycle, we've had 2 peaks in the monthly RSI, and it's the second peak that we top off on. And I can hear a couple people being like, oh, we got 2 peaks now. Well, yeah, technically. You had a peak here, and before you broke through it, you had 2 peaks there at some point too. This looks like 2 peaks, but if we keep going, it's not going to be 2 peaks anymore. It just looks like it now. It's not 2 peaks, I promise you. And the reason we know that too is because, again, on that second peak each time, that is when the bull cycle ended. Even here, even last cycle. So the bull cycle, I shouldn't say the bull cycle ended. That's when we had our all-time highs. The bull cycle ended this cycle on the first peak, which is the only time that's ever happened. But the all-time high came in on the second peak still, which is that's expected. Okay, so if we do have a dud bull market, maybe that's a way that we could find our actual all-time high or a good selling point. Okay, but beyond all that, you look at the RSI, and you can see the tops come in line very well with this trend line. Every single cycle we've interacted with that trend line. That is not the top once we hit it. It just means we're getting near it, okay? I don't know about you guys, but this is pretty far away. And it seems to me like we're on our path to hit this line. We just haven't done it yet. So my assumption is once we hit this line, we're not at the end of the cycle. We're just at our first peak of 2. That's at the end of the cycle, okay? That's all we're at. And if we go through, I think I did this in last night's video. I can't remember. If you go through, if you measure from the top here to this phase here, that's 4 months in between peaks. You go here from that peak to this peak here, actually like right to the peak. Let's get it right. Come on now, right there. 7 months. It goes 4, 7, 4, and then you guessed it, 7 right here. It says 8, but that's because I put it one back right on the peak right there. You can definitely see it is 7, 4, 7, 4, 7. Once we get to our peak, which we're not at yet, we haven't even peaked here. We haven't even had our first peak. And the whole reason I'm talking about this is because I don't get how people can even possibly acknowledge that we're done with this bull cycle yet. We're nowhere near any of the statistics, like any of the normal readings that we see during an end of the bull cycle, okay? The only thing that makes sense for it to be the end of the bull cycle now is a sort of time perspective, right? If you look at it from a high to a high, that was 29 months. You look at it from a high to a high here, that was 49 months. If you look at it from a high to a high here, that was 47 months, right? So if you go from a high to a high here, we're at right now 37 months. That's within this range of stuff. But even then, I mean, if we were to go to 47 months, 49 months, that puts us at October of this year, December of this year, right? And that I would expect it's more like this. But where we're at now, 37 months, it technically is within this range. But from a time perspective, that's really the only way, is what I'm trying to say, that you can make sense out of this being the top area. And even then it doesn't make sense, right? Especially whenever you look at the RSI, which is probably really the only indicator you need. This is one of the indicators that I'm going to be watching for the end of the cycle, is to see when it interacts with this trend line. We haven't even had the first interaction with it. And after we get that, we have over a quarter of a year, and sometimes over half of a year, over a quarter, over a half of a year before the cycle actually comes to an end, okay? And even last cycle, when the cycle did come to an end, 7 months later, we still had the all-time high. So just, again, that double peak, which, again, we haven't even had the first peak yet. What's crazy is people are assuming that this is the all-time high for Bitcoin, that we're going to drop now because of a measly 4% drop, you guys. And we haven't even started, right? We really haven't even started. Here's something else that I want to do. It's pretty obvious, because, again, I know there are a lot of new people here. So let me just show you some of my perspective that I go over a good bit of the time here, but we haven't gone over in a second. Okay, we're not going to go over the first bull cycle. I hope it's obvious where the bull cycles are. Bull cycle there, bull cycle there, bull cycle there. We're in one now, right? I hope it's obvious where the bull cycles are, where the bear cycles are, okay? Now that we've identified that, the first cycle with the halving was here, 2012. November 2012, November 28th was the very first Bitcoin halving, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to draw. We're just going to draw. Actually, I'm not going to draw. I'm going to take the low. I'm going to do a line of best fit for just a line connecting the low to the high. Okay, we're going to do your pre-halving move, which is the bear cycle low to the high that happened before your halving, pre-halving move, low to high. And then we're going to do your post-halving move, which is the low to the high from the halving and on. Okay, so the halving was in November. We're going to take the low from there and go onward. Okay, and now I'm going to move this line over here and this line over here. This was your pre-halving move, and this was your post-halving move without any candles. That's from a low to a high, pre-halving move, post-halving move. It's easy to see which move was bigger, and by a long shot, right? The biggest move, in other words, was your post-halving move. In other words, the end of your cycle, the finale of your cycle was the most robust, the strongest. Does that make sense? I feel like that's obvious, but you can see it here, and that's really nice. We keep going forward. It's like this every single cycle, you guys. You take the bear market, not the bear market low, but let's say the low of the beginning of the bull cycle, what I would measure for the move. This low here, your halving was in July 2016, so your high before the halving was here. This is your pre-halving move. Then you have a low here in August. Your halving was July 2016, July 9th. Low here to the bull cycle high. Again, we can see without all the candles, just by ways of the lines here. Very simple. Pre-halving move, post-halving move. Pre-halving move, post-halving move, right? You can see which one is bigger. Again, we're going to keep doing this. We'll move through it a little bit faster, okay? Low here to the high. Your halving was in May 2020, May 11th, 2020. That was your pre-halving move right there, okay? Right there. From a low point here. Actually, that's still before your halving. Your halving was in May 11th. So it would be this low to this high. I'm not even going to measure it to the all-time high. I'm just going to measure it because if I did that, that would make this so much longer, and it doesn't deserve to be that long, so we move sideways for a bit. So I'm just going to draw it to the end of the cycle, which would have been here, okay? And still, last cycle, so lackluster, the opposite of robust, and still pre-halving move, post-halving move, noticeably bigger. Each time, each cycle, even the weak-ass cycle, it was still like that. Okay, now we get to the good part. Low here. This was our pre-halving high because the halving was in April 2020. This is our pre-halving move. What I love about this, by the way, is this pre-halving move is way bigger than our last pre-halving move, right? It's almost as big as our post-halving move. Ho-ho! And this whole cycle, by the way, guys, back when we were down here, back whenever we were over here, I've been saying since the beginning, I think this cycle will be the first Bitcoin bull cycle. And why a lot of people are going to get this wrong, this will be the first Bitcoin bull cycle that outperforms a prior bull cycle from a low to a high. Oftentimes, every single cycle so far, from low to high, it gets smaller and smaller cycle after cycle. So nobody's expecting, a lot of people, this is why a lot of OGs in the space, because this is kind of the way, the rule of law is to see diminishing returns. So a lot of OGs are reluctant to say that we're going to see anything bigger than this, right? If you take it from a low to a high of this month, from that bear market low, that puts us at 345K. You guys, that's why you will rarely find a crypto YouTuber who has a very substantial following who openly discusses that prices above 300K are possible for Bitcoin this cycle. And oftentimes it's not, you don't see the same cycle, it's dramatically less. So a lot of people are even afraid to call for prices above 200K. Not on this channel. We're calling for 500K. Nothing less will do. 500K at a minimum. And we're going to make sense out of that in a second, okay? Going back to this. This was just your pre-halving move, okay? Post-halving low right here. We don't know where our high is, okay? But what we do know, or what we assume to know, is that every move so far, pre-halving, 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 is smaller than the post-halving, post-halving, post-halving. So since we don't know how big our post-halving move is going to be, and we only know how big our pre-halving move is, let's take our pre-halving move right here. It's the same exact line, and let's act like this was our post-halving move, which it's not. It's only going to be bigger than this because that's what we do in the second half of the cycle. That's when the finale comes in. That's when of course it's whenever we move up the most is the second half of the cycle. The second half is never the weakest part of the cycle. Even in the weakest cycle we had, it's never the weakest part of the cycle. It's always stronger. And we've seen that with the simple line analysis. Simple lines here, man. Okay, from a low, if I see them off, I cleaned. We're moving moving, and I cleaned the bathroom. There was mold in the bathroom. I used a bunch of chemicals. I feel funny from the chemicals, you guys. We're going to blame it on that. From a low here, okay, taking this move, this is assuming that we see the same move, which we won't. We will see a bigger move, right? We're going to see a bigger move than our pre-halving move. We have every single cycle. The post-halving move has always been bigger. But if it was the same exact size, that would take us to 247K. 247K if it were to be the same size. I don't know about you guys, but if it's going to be bigger, I would assume it's not going to be $50,000 bigger. I would assume it's probably not even going to be $100,000 bigger. It's probably going to be twice as big. It's going to be, or at least more than that. 247K, man. And twice as big from a price perspective, not from, I mean, from a line perspective, that would bring you, you know, that's all the way up at like not even, that's probably up at like $1 million from a line perspective. But from a price perspective, it'd be more. From a time perspective too, which each time too, if you look at all these lines, pre-halving move here, look at the slope versus the post-halving move. The slope is higher with the post-halving move. Pre-halving move here with the post-halving move, the slope is higher on the post-halving move. Pre-halving move here, last cycle was the only time actually that we had a higher sloping pre-halving move, to be completely fair. I'm assuming this cycle we will see a higher sloping post-halving move, but if we saw the same move, that would top us off in December of 2025, this year, timing-wise, and it would be at 247K. So I don't know about you guys, but I assume that the Bitcoin bull cycle is going to end before December of 2025. And if it does, that would mean then that this line here, which is at about 250K, instead of it being in December, it would be in October, because that's whenever I expect it to be. Again, 250 was basically the level, right? Somewhere around like right there. It was just below 250 right there. But now this line's even smaller, because I don't expect the cycle to end, at least not for Bitcoin. I don't think it's going to be in December. I think it'll be October. So now this line's even smaller than our pre-halving move. And again, it's all speculative. We don't know. It could end later than that. But if the price only goes to 247K, and if Bitcoin's bull cycle ends in October, that would mean we have a smaller post-halving move. So that won't do. Let's say it ends in October. Well, then we have to have a bigger price to the upside. Maybe something that's at about 500K. Maybe something that has a higher pitch that's even bigger than this. And maybe, you guys, we don't even stop at 500K. Who knows? And by ways of looking at all this stuff, it might make more sense that we actually go even through 500K. I don't think that we will. And I think because we had such a big pre-halving move, I think our post-halving move will be closer in size to our pre-halving move than it normally is. But I still think it'll be bigger. This is where I want to end the video, and I want to just talk about why I think we're going to 500K beyond just what we did there. Okay, because going from 240K to 500K, that's kind of a big jump. Why do I think 500K? We take this first bull cycle high to the first bear cycle low. The next bull cycle went all the way up to the 2272, and it went just above it there at about $1,000. Went just above it right there. Pulled all the way down, found support at the orange line. The orange line is your 1,618. That's the golden ratio, the golden extension. Look it up. What's the golden ratio? It's the 1,618. It's the golden ratio to life, to the universe, man. The Romans used it to build, the Greeks used it to build their architecture and stuff, man. It's everywhere. Seashells, right? The spirals in our galaxy literally respect the Fibonacci sequence. Look it up. The golden ratio, it's everywhere. It's in your psychology. It's in your notebook. It's in the leaves, in the mountains. It's everywhere. And it's in the charts, man. It's in the charts, right? So first, I'm getting all distracted here. High to low, 2272. Then you pull back to the golden ratio to find support. Next cycle, high here to the next cycle, low there. You also went exactly to the 2272, but just above it again. And then you found support, not at the 1,618, but just below it. The COVID crash did take you right to the 1,618, the golden ratio, and you bounced off of it, showing significance there cycle after cycle as well. Resistance and support in that area, okay? This cycle, you did not go to the 2272. High to low. This time you topped at the 1,618, okay? So each cycle so far, it's either been the 1,618 or the 2,272. You didn't get the 2,272 last cycle, you got the 1,618, okay? Now, we look at this high here to this low here. If we stop at the 1,618, we already know that that would mean this cycle would be, the post-halving move would be weaker than the pre-halving move, which we've never seen before. And I don't anticipate we're going to do that now. With Donald Trump president, with United States making American-made cryptos tax exempt, with Bitcoin being in basically a Bitcoin reserve for the United States, along with other cryptos too. No, I don't think this post-halving move will be. I don't think this is the time where the post-halving move will be smaller than the pre-halving move. So 173K off the table as an all-time high. No, sir, not happening. Unless that's it. Unless we literally stop this month and that's it, guys. I don't think so, though. So what's the only other place that we've stopped at? It's all the way at the 2272. And oftentimes we go just above it. What's just above 462K? That's $500,000. That's my thesis. That's why I think we're going there. That's because that's what we do normally when we don't do double tops cycle after cycle, okay? That's my thoughts. Now, there is the possibility, if instead of stopping at 173K, because it's very obvious that we're not going to do that, and we don't stop at the 2272, the only other acceptable target would be 260K to 307K. And I don't think we're going to stop there. Bitcoin really does like its 2272, but you never know. It's the first time for everything. Personally, I expect Bitcoin will be at $500,000. I don't think a move like that would be on par with what we've seen with our pre-halving move versus our post-halving move. A little bit bigger would make more sense to me. I got nothing else for you guys. If you like the video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, is it a good time to buy crypto? Absolutely it is. Yesterday, you got faked out, man. You got punked. You straight got Ashton Kutchered down here if you sold, right? It's not too late to buy it back, but it is a little bit higher. You're not buying at a discount. You're buying at a premium. And we're about to rip, you guys. We really are. Bitcoin, I don't know if you remember last time that it ripped, okay, to new all-time highs nonetheless, but it had a little dump right before then. It kind of looks like this candle here. It's just this one got the green close. This one's got the red close. I wonder / don't wonder what's coming over the coming days and over the coming weeks. We'll see you at 140K by the end of February, if not 180K, right? Take it easy. Bye-bye.